of this gospel, I've become a servant according to the gift of God's grace that was given to me by the working of his power. Grace. Grace is active. Oh, didn't want that one yet. Oh, bother, you weren't meant to see that one yet. We'll go back to it. Grace is an active thing. Grace isn't something that we just have and hold on to and feel nice. Grace has to flow. It has to flow, or it isn't grace, is it? It's a bit like a heart. If a heart doesn't beat, then it's not much of a heart. Grace has to flow. It's an active thing. It made me think of milk from creatures. The more you milk, the more milk is produced. Those of you that have fed your babies, you know that. When we milk our goats, when we could, we actually have boys now, so you can't. But neutered boys, so they don't smell. But the when you milk cattle, the more you milk, the more milk comes, so long as there is good nurturing. So long as there is good nurturing. It's an active thing. Grace must flow. And grace then is an example of abundance and faith. Because if we're prepared to give out, knowing that we're loved, we then receive grace. And this is a picture of abundance. Our world focuses on scarcity. You've got to get what you need and more to keep ourselves safe. We live in a place of fear. We're scared of not having enough. We're scared of not being liked enough. We're scared of not having enough control. We live in a society, in a culture of scarcity. That isn't God's world. That is a world of abundance. As Graham said the other day, let's think about kingdom. It's a kingdom of abundance, but we don't experience the abundance until we're prepared to give it out. We're first nurtured, and then we can give it out in abundance. And the only way to learn and to discover that is through practice. We cannot give out if we don't have a practice of giving out. The cow must be milked regularly to produce the milk. We must give out regularly to be able to receive in the grace. We need a practice. And that's where my tree comes in. A while ago, not very long ago actually, I was praying very simply, Lord, how shall I pray for the community? And I got a picture of a tree. And we often get pictures of trees because they're nice, you know, they're comfortable, they're beautiful, and you think of wisdom and love and stability and all these lovely things, lovely, rich, beautiful things. But what I saw in this tree was in the canopy. This tree was the one we saw last week, actually, in the woods in South Cornwall. The most glorious beech tree. And we stood under that tree for a while. But as you look into the canopy, there are thousands of communities there, thousands of communities of insects, of lichen, of moss, of trees, of creatures that we have no idea are there. Thousands of communities under the ground that we have no idea that are there, that aren't even classified yet. This is a place of community. And then I saw the trunk, and through the trunk is the sap rising and falling and rising and falling and rising and falling. And my brothers and sisters, that's us. The rising and falling of the sap, the flow of life to these communities of which we may have no idea who they are, but our call is to bring blessing and healing, to bring an end to hostility, to bring welcome and nurture to these communities that we have no idea about, who we will bless. And doesn't that relieve us from the whole power thing? Power is so dangerous, isn't it? We want to be bigger because, well, I want to be bigger, but I mean, community wants to be bigger because that's what we do, isn't it? You know, in society, you know, if you're progressing, you're getting bigger. Are you growing? But actually, maybe we can be relieved of that. Our call is to serve. Our call is to be active in the flow of life to communities, to peoples, perhaps we will never know. Some of them we will know very intimately, but some of them we won't know. And Paul says this, for this reason here is the grace that has been given him. Because of the grace that has been given me, I bow my knees before the Father. Not because of the glory and the miracles and the growth and the power and the success, the grace given to me, the grace from whom every family in heaven and earth takes its name. I pray that according to the riches of his glory, he may grant that you may be strengthened in your being with power through his Spirit, that Christ may dwell in your hearts, and the important bit's fallen off the bottom. As you are being rooted and grounded in love, as you are being rooted and grounded in love, it's an active thing. And to be being rooted, to being open to being rooted is about being a yes people. Yes people. Yes to the Spirit. A yes mentality. Yes. Yes to the Spirit. Yes to our way of life. A yes people. And that takes us back again to the practice. We have to practice being a yes people. Yes to praying with our rhythm of prayer. Yes to being open to learn. Yes to listening to the wisdom of the person who accompanies us. Yes to the care of creation. Yes to simplicity of life. Yes to the openness of the Spirit. Yes to hearing God's call that we may pray for people. Yes to the healing of fragmented people and places. Yes to unity. Yes to going out and sharing what God has given us. To be a yes people. But being rooted and grounded in love, there's something more in that as well. And I think this is something significant, perhaps for the churches and those involved in church leadership. The word grounded to me speaks about being grounded. And then I thought of grassroots. And the other day I was doing a bit of weeding in the garden, and I've got lots of couch grass. And you know what its roots are like. They go deep, and every time they break, they produce new plants. I don't over worry about weeds in my garden, but you know, I do like to have a little bit of control. But the only way that I could get the roots out was to dig the plant up. So up came the whole plant with the roots, but I still could not get the grass roots out. And that said something very significant to me. It said that the grass roots just thrive because of where they are. I'm doing the top-down planting. I'm putting plants in and nurturing them. And some of them will thrive. It's not that they won't thrive if I put them in the right place. But the grass will thrive because it knows how to thrive. And what is important for me as a gardener and a grower is the nurturing from above. Now, Simon talked about institutional agendas, or he mentioned institutional agendas. And often our institutions find good ideas and they want to plant them. And that's a great thing. But I wonder if some of the reason why, I mean, various dioceses have introduced ways of life, and I'm not sure they're thriving. I won't say they won't because I don't know enough, but I'm not sure they're thriving. I think what is needed is the nurture, so the grassroots will thrive. And I think that's important. The top-down agenda doesn't work. The top-down nurturing is essential. It is essential. It nurtures the plants, it nurtures the creatures, it nurtures the children, doesn't it? The top-down. But the thriving comes from people being who they are. And again, that speaks again to our call to listen, to hear. What are people's longings? Nurture them so that they can thrive from the grassroots. And the call to so many people is the same. We want that way of life so that we can live more simply and with the Spirit. That call is deep. Our call is to nurture them and to heal and to listen, to hear the Spirit in the voice of the people that are calling us so that we can nurture them and encourage, if you like to use the words, encourage the vocation, because the call is strong, but it's about the nurturing, the healing, the bringing an end to the hostility, to stand in the middle, to know God's grace as we give it out, as we receive it. So we're going to do this on time. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. There's the tree. I've rattled through this. This is our call. This is our call to be active in that trunk of the tree, that we might nurture the communities that are all around us, above us, below us, around us. Sometimes bits of the trunk break off and get broken. We're left with scars. And we know that, don't we? We know that personally. We know that as a community, we have wounds, but they do become beautiful. We do become very beautiful. Visualize the vastness of the tree. See the enormity of this ancient tree with its roots that go deep into our land, our nations, the saints, the Spirit, the soil. And then we see beyond that, we see to Jesus, who has nurtured the saints and the seasons and the soil, who's been part there of the creation of it all. Through him, all things were created. See that huge trunk. Yes, you are a vital part of that trunk. Hear that call to allow the sap to flow up and down and up and down and up and down. And as you do so, the grace will flow out through you, and unknowingly, you will receive grace for yet more. Let us be blessed in our calling. We have such a great calling. But more than that, let us bring blessing. Let us be a part of the end of hostility. Let us work with Christ in this. Amen.
Amen.